Hello, everyone, and welcome to Court of the Rings here on twitch.tv/LOTRO stream, youtube.com/Lord of the Rings /live, and facebook.com/LOTRO. Appreciate you being here. I am Cordovan, the community manager for Lord of the Rings Online, and I'll be here with you for the next hour doing some Q&A, doing some news, and also playing the game a little bit. I'll be running through the book quest stuff with my friend Druid's Fire here. How you doing, Druid's Fire?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you, Jerry?
Good, good. Appreciate you being here. And we are actually up to Book 13, Chapter 4 here, so we're going to be in Loseth, doing Loseth-related things here a little bit later on in the show. But let me start off by talking a little bit about news, because I know we've had a real busy couple of days, and since the last week's show, we got swamped with your feedback last Friday here related to instance locks and things like that. So we have news to pass along here, and so I wanted to actually start off the show a little bit just going straight into that sort of thing. For those who are just basically watching for that sort of thing, let's get straight to it. All right, so first off, I wanted to explain a little bit about what's going on regarding Ashes of Enchantment. We had our second Bull Roar preview this week, and unfortunately it's still, being as Update 23 is still in active development, the state of Update 23 on the second Bull Roar preview still had some things that weren't 100% finished and were a little buggy, one of them being Ashes of Enchantment, Motes of Enchantment, Embers of Enchantment, and all that sort of thing. So I wanted to clear up what it is that we're actually doing here on Update 23 for those who are curious. So here's the deal. We are renaming Ashes of Enchantment to Motes of Enchantment for Update 23. We're getting rid of the Ash name, trying to turn into a more universal currency that we can use not just for Update 23, but also Update 23 and beyond. Motes of Enchantment will be used to purchase older gear, that's level 115 and below gear, basically the stuff you can buy now. The old Gorgoroth loot boxes will yield motes, basically the same, they'll be yielding the same thing, that's just they're called motes now, once Update 23 is released to live. Old items will be available for motes with the old vendor. The new vendor will offer the new Update 23 gear for the new currency. So what is the new currency? That is called Embers of Enchantment, and it'll be used to acquire level 116 and above gear. The basic idea is we're positioning this long term. So the Motes of Enchantment will essentially be the universal currency for the universal formerly known as Ash currency to purchase old gear once it's been replaced by new stuff. Now, we don't want you to use the old currency to buy the new stuff because we need to, actually let people, say, play the game to earn the new thing. And so to prevent kind of a hoarding situation where people just stockpile as much ash as they can and then basically pick up all the new stuff on day one, we're setting up the system where Motes of Enchantment will be used for all the old stuff, and then Embers of Enchantment will be used for the new stuff. We are introducing a new loot box. This came up last Friday in Update 23. That box will provide Embers of Enchantment at the level cap. All of your keys are going to work on both old and new loot boxes. As a matter of fact, we're kind of in the process of considering consolidating all the lock boxes to just have one key. But we'll have more information about that a little bit later. We do expect to have a cap of embers, similar to what we have for Motes of Enchantment. The number, is still in flux a little bit, but expect a cap to that. And there will still be a cap on Motes of Enchantment. That had come up on the forum since I made this post. But one of the things I wanted to make sure people understood is that the reason we still have a cap on the old motes is that otherwise you could get into a situation where over time you've got, let's say, 200,000 motes of enchantment, and then, you're pretty well set for the game's life, and you just go in, get the old stuff whenever there's something there that you want. The reason that's a problem is because we are doing this thing where in future updates, remember, the new gear is going to be placed into the old vendor, and then that new gear will be replaced by new gear, whatever it is that we have coming out. So we don't want to have a situation where it's better to wait and then just use your heavy stockpile of Motes of Enchantment rather than, say, running the new content as the primary means to acquire new gear. So that's what the deal is with that. And you can also expect that when we do a level cap increase in the future, the former Embers of Enchantment will basically be turned into Motes of Enchantment and then be used to acquire the older gear. So that's kind of, we're thinking long term here on the system there. But there was, like I said, some bugs on Bull Roar where things weren't stacking right and things were not 100% named right and what have you. So that's what's going on with that. All right. All these currencies are giving me a headache. Simplify, okay. Will we need more scrolls of empowerment? Good question. I don't have an answer to that. Sorry. Ooh, someone in Facebook. I travel next week to propose to a lady I met years ago in LOTRO. We are treating the ring like legendary gear. Every few years we'll deconstruct and upgrade the ring. Oh, that's so awesome. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Congratulations on that. Yeah, real quick note also, this relates specifically to YouTube chat, is because I kind of had a spam issue with last week's YouTube chat, I've temporarily implemented a slow mode on the YouTube chat. So you can only post one, I had set it to 20 seconds, figuring that's pretty low. So you can only post once every 20 seconds on YouTube chat today. And that's really because, like I said, I had a spam issue where they're... people were just going, and I couldn't keep up with it. So that's what that is. If it's too much of a pain, I can lift it. But this will let people kind of ask their question and not have it get buried in a host of other things. I theoretically could do that for Twitch chat too, but we'll see if I need to. Hopefully I won't need to, but it is something that I can do if Twitch chat gets perhaps a little bit too busy to be able to follow things. Okay. Lariana, too complex. Could someone clip his gesture for clarification? Let me try to simplify that. Basically, Ashes of Enchantment are getting renamed to Motes of Enchantment. Motes of Enchantment will always be used to purchase the old gear. Embers of Enchantment are the new currency and will be used to purchase the new gear from the vendor in Update 23 and beyond. And update, let's say, next time we do a level cap increase or something like that, you know, Update 24, 25, whatever it ends up being, Embers of Enchantment that you have in your inventory are going to get converted to motes. The gear from the old new stuff is going to be brought into the old vendor, and then the new gear vendor will get the new gear. Is that maybe a little bit more simple on that? And there will still be caps in place on that sort of thing. Otherwise, the other piece that's just worth mentioning is that we are indeed keeping caps on that gear, and Black Seal keys will be used to purchase, to open rather, both new and the new loot box in addition to the ones that they currently open. Okay. So that's the deal with Ashes of Enchantment. Let me real quick move to the next piece here, and that is that we have listened to your feedback. There's actually, in hindsight, there was a bug, because like we wanted to update the Tier 12 crafted morale and power potions based on your feedback, and just to make them more desirable at the end game here. And then on this week's Bull Roar, they were super good. I mean, they were like hundreds of thousands of power they'd give you back, and so people, especially our PvMP players, were like, that's kind of a problem. So when I brought it up to Vastin, he actually looked at it and was like, no, there's a math issue going on here. So it'll be fixed. They're still going to be really good, but they're not going to be kind of so as ridiculously good as they are right now on Bull Roar. One thing that's in the works, I said in the post we are considering, this is going to happen, most likely. It's just that I didn't want to commit 100% to exactly what the number is going to be. We're going to further differentiate the item level of the new loot box gear from the Tier 1 instance reward gear in Update 23. The current thinking is maybe something about another 2 to 3 levels, but remember there's a range there because things can kind of Yahtzee up to get you another 5 levels. But the intention is to further differentiate the loot box gear from the Tier 1 new instance gear. We're also looking at renaming those loot boxes and kind of changing the flavor text based on your feedback. I already talked about the old gear. And then finally, here's the thing that sort of has been the topic of the week. And I want to get to that here today before we actually get to questing. We've been paying close attention to your feedback on instance chest locks. So what we're going to do is we're creating a system to address this. Rather than having, say, a hard lock on being able to open these new instance chests, we're creating a system which offers what are currently in-house being called favored openings of a chest and standard openings of a chest. So if you haven't run the instance in, let's say, a couple days to a week or something like that, you go into the instance, you succeed, you hit the chest, you have a really good chance, a favored chance, like a super high chance of getting the good stuff, you know, whatever the currency is that you're in that instance to get. And you'll be able to do that for a handful of times, but eventually, once you kind of hit that chest, ransack that chest over and over again, once you kind of start getting into a grinding behavior with that instance, eventually you're going to get a standard chance. Now, this is a lower, you know, basically a not boosted chance to get the currency. More of a typical random number generation thing. And that'll be in place until basically the time resets. So we're putting in basically a cap on favored openings to a certain number of times within a certain time frame. Additionally, we're also going to be adjusting that limit based on the difficulty. Since the Tier 1 gear is not as good as the Tier 3 gear, we're going to have a little bit more restrictive number of favored openings on, say, Tier 3 than Tier 1. There are a couple of things, though, that are worth mentioning here as well. We're working, it isn't implemented yet, I don't think, but we're working on some kind of visual effect, like kind of a glow on the chest or particle effect, so that when you go to hit the chest, you know that you're getting a favored pull as opposed to a standard pull. And additionally, it's worth knowing that this is by character, so it doesn't matter who opens the chest. If you open the chest and you're in a favored roll status, you're going to get a favored roll. If you open the chest and you're in a standard status, you're going to get a standard roll. Same with everyone else in the party. So one member of the party could get a favored roll, another one could get a standard roll based on the number of times they've hit that chest within a certain time frame in the new instances. Are we going to bring this back to, or roll this into all the old instances? If it's popular, if it seems to be working well for everybody, then perhaps that's something we might be able to do in the future. And again, we can also tweak these numbers as needed. The numbers are not set in stone yet, so I didn't want to announce them and then end up being, you know, completely different. But as we get closer to the release of Update 23, we'll have those numbers here for you. And the basic idea here is, rather than locking out chest pulls, we want people to be able to play with their friends at whatever their pace and schedule is. But we also do need to keep in place like certain acquisition rate of new items just to maintain a healthy game environment, really. So I'm guessing I may have a few questions here. I like that solution with chests. It's a bit similar to DDO Chest Ransack. Yeah, as a matter of fact, DDO's had a system similar to this for basically since 2006 and all their chests. Will we be able to see what kind of chance, cooldown chance we've got on the chests in the new instances? Have 8 characters doing end-level stuff, so hard to keep track. You're not going to get a straight percentage, but you will get some kind of visual feedback or other indicator saying, yo, you're getting a favored roll, you're getting a standard roll. Will that kind of eliminate the only get silver dropping from chests? Because that is also just annoying. It doesn't ultimately impact, I mean, it's the same basically loot table that's being used. So it's just the percentages are going to be different, right? So theoretically, if you're in a situation where all you get is silver, you could theoretically only get silver under this new system. But you'll have a far less chance of it if you're on a favored roll. Far, far less chance. Highly unlikely. Ember's account bound or not is then, for me, a nice question. It'll be whatever the motes are right now. We're keeping that system intact in regards to bind status. For the gold spammer, couldn't you put in a default filter that deletes any reference to a website? We do. We do. They actually find ways to kind of play with lettering and numbers and keyboard styles, and I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty of it, but yes, we do. And we also have like 1,000 variations on it. And then they find variation 1001. So... Now, I will say this, and I mentioned this on the forums in a follow-up post. This does mean that, let's say, you have a favored chance on a chest, and your kinmate has a standard chance, and you're running the instance together. You could basically take advantage of your good chest roll and then pass that item, similar to the same item restrictions that we have on instances, to your kinny. So it doesn't prevent, say, trading in chests. They're going to operate by the same rules they always would. Maybe that's not ideal because it kind of lets people metagame things a little bit, but still we think it's the best way forward to take care of your concerns and our needs. Wayward Plane really wants to hop on a minecart and ride it. That would be awesome. I don't think we really have the minecart riding tech to support that, but you know I'm down for it. So, Eothron, glad to hear you introduce the favorite openings. However, how does the best gear from instances compare to gear from loot boxes? Good question, and that is what I'm going to get to next, because actually, nope, never mind. That's on Bullroar. Let me make sure I'm going to call up my Bullroar notes. I want to make sure I get the numbers right. That's why I want to call up Bullroar notes. We actually have the raw numbers here. Actually, where is that? Sorry, you'll have to give me just a quick second here. I want to make sure I get my information correct. I'm just looking up the numbers as we speak. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing the numbers that I have. Sorry, it's taken. I wish I had it ready, but I pulled up the wrong link, and now I can't find my old link. But the basic idea to that question about, and again, the question is how does the best gear from instances compare to gear from loot boxes? Is the gear from loot boxes is going to be slightly below the tier 1 versions, or because of the wiggle room of bumping, you could theoretically have a base level tier 1 reward that is slightly lower than the loot box reward that Yahtzee's up 5 levels. So, but they're basically chunks where it's basically loot box, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So, and they're generally by item level up to 5. So let's say it's item level up to 370, and I think that might be 367. On the loot boxes, it'll be 370 to 375 tier 1, 375 to 380 tier 2, 380 to 385 tier 3. Something like that. Unfortunately, like I said, I actually have the numbers, but now I can't find them. So cut me a little slack on those numbers, but that's what I think they are off the top of my head. And so that really means, essentially tier 3 loot's going to be way ahead of loot box gear, even if it Yahtzee's up. I ask again, when shall SSG repair the bad balance for creep players? You make creeps stronger and stronger, exclamation point. That's insane. I'm a VIP player and only play creeps. You will hopefully have checked out this week on Bull Roar, but if you didn't get the opportunity to, Creepside is in a much better place heading into Update 23 based on our Bull Roar preview. That's a function of a couple of different things. One is the masteries changes for all free peoples, which is impacting the Freep side, combined with the scaling to 120 for the Creep side. Is actually what we're seeing from our PvMP players on Bull Roar is Creep side's doing real good right now, perhaps almost on the range of being too good, but because Free side tends to be more fluid and more reactive to changes in the PvE environment, we think actually Creep side and Freep side is in a pretty good place for Update 23 right now. And we're going to be doing a little bit more work on that, I think, before 23 goes live. But hopefully, I'd have loved to get your feedback on Bull Roar. We do have another Bull Roar preview coming up, so if that applies to you, please check it out and let us know. But I think you're going to be pretty happy here coming with Update 23. Els. Yeah, hey, Els, how's it going? I've been reading a lot of your posts this week. You're basically saying pay more attention to itemization. They want 1 or 2 unique items being part of the new instances, and you're perhaps not really happy with the state of itemization in Update 23. Appreciate the feedback. I think that's something we'll have to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. I don't think it's likely to basically change for Update 23 here, but we do have an Update 23 raid being released after the release of Update 23 and things like that, so perhaps we can address some of your concerns for unique loot, as it were, in the relatively near future. Loot box value is really the Ash Ember mote drop with a slight chance at gear. Sure, we recognize that a lot of you folks really use these loot boxes for embers and motes. The intention is we really want you to run the content to get the best stuff. Now, that's not to say that it's going to dramatically change on the drop rate, but I think you will see, to the extent that mote return is a function of item level, that you will still see good reasons to run those instances. Clarification, please. Chance for premium chest drop goes down by number of attempts or after successful rolls. Okay, so number of attempts. Basically, it keeps... There's a timer that'll be on the chest. How many times have you hit this chest over the last, say, 24 hours, 48, maybe even up to a week? I'm not quite sure what the number is going to land on. But let's just say, for example, on Tier 1, it was 7 favored rolls within a 48-hour period, something like that. On that 8th time you open the chest, you would get a standard roll rather than, say, a favored roll. No, creeps are really not doing too good on Bull Roar. They are doing better, but still not on par with Freeps. Okay, so I'm seeing mixed feedback on that, because there's that, God Mode Creepside thread happening right now on LOTRO, where people are basically saying that Creepside is really strong right now. Please, Haderb, I appreciate your feedback on that, especially in this next preview. Give it a good try and get us some solid numbers if you can, so that we can have some good feedback on that sort of thing. We're going to fix Yellow Line Champion dual weapons. Yes. But I don't think it's in for Update 23. All right, let me pass on over real quick here to... By the way, here was the Update 22.5 release notes we released this week. I guess you guys have had an opportunity, guys and gals have had an opportunity to read that. Probably the most critical thing for this particular show is we did have to re-implement chat restrictions on global chat, like Tell and Say channels. We had removed that restriction because some of our bands were getting hit by it. But unfortunately, we had to re-implement it due to a number of issues, some of which I can't really talk about, but we had the spammers to the extent we had spam still, they were moving into those channels because they figured out that they could. And we also had an issue where on Arkenstone, if you're a PVMP player in Arkenstone, you'll know that you've been having an issue with your client essentially locking up, and that was really related to misuse of the chat system. So we had to implement this feature in place on the Say channel. That said, we don't want to punish bands, right? So ideally, you guys aren't going to be doing choruses that are the same thing 20 times in 30 seconds, but, you know, whatever. If we need to find the right number there, hopefully we can do that. Anyway, that's the big thing for this show, because I know we've got some musicians that watch. All right, let me real quick head to YouTube chat. So ash, which we collected, will turn into the new currency. The ash will turn into its renamed currency. Current ashes of enchantment will become motes of enchantment. Motes of enchantment will be used to buy all the current gear that you can get right now. The new stuff that comes with Update 23 will be bartered with a barter vendor using the new currency called Embers of Enchantment. You're the second person who said ray tracing in LOTRO. That, I understand that has something to do with some announcement that came from Gamescom this week. I have no idea what ray tracing is. It seems to me Ray's too busy to trace everybody's game clients at once, but hey, what do I know? Elizabeth, you have a question on bridles. We are going to a higher level, and yet we cannot imbue bridles. Not many do mounted combat, but you do. Will imbuing bridles be possible in the future? I have not heard of plans to really work on mounted combat in the near future, but I can bring up that you know, should we be able to do that, hopefully we can work on bridles a little bit. If one wanted to be a part of the development or story writing team for LOTRO, how would one go about it? We don't currently have any openings. As a matter of fact, Chris Pearson and Jeff Libby would probably like to keep their jobs. But theoretically, we use Daybreak's human resources rather than pay to have our own human resources department. It just made sense to use our publishers. So you go to daybreak.com/careers, and that's where we have job openings. Search for the ones in the Boston area. Final, concerning Light of... Uh-oh. Help me out, Druid's Fire. Arendil? Arendil. Light of Arendil. The new gear doesn't have that stat. What happens if we decide to run the Mordor instances at level 120? Will there be a separate armor with Light of Arendil that needs to be bartered? So what we're going to do, this is actually Tiber, I believe, made this change. Put in a thing so that at level 116, you will get a passive trait that will give you a certain amount of Light of Arendil, and that number will go up as you level up to 120. The numbers are not yet finalized, but the current thing is you start at 20 and go up to 100. And the idea of that is to give you that boost of light that you need. And then if you need to do, say, the T2C instances or something, you might still need to do a little bit of gear work, but this at least gives you a good heads up. Greetings from Cologne, Germany, Gamescom. Hey, Gamescom and Cologne, Germany. I would love to go some year. Meredith, you want me to further moderate the feedback on the forums about these particular issues? I've tried to do a mix between let people argue and get their point across without being seen as too authoritarian on it. But I have had to do a fair amount of moderation. Some people just don't play nice. I I'm sorry if it's not really quite the level you want. It is certainly a controversial topic this week, so you're going to have a lot of kind of debate about that. Has the feedback on the avatar changes on High Elves been seen? I wasn't really happy with the changes on Update 23, and I can't fix mine back to how he looks on live. I did see that. When you posted up, there was someone who posted up the screenshots between the two, and the changes are super duper near imperceptible to me. But I have read that, and I passed it along to the art team, but I don't know if we're going to change it. Any plans in the future to produce LOTRO merch and lore books, perhaps on merch? We would love to be able to introduce some kind of t-shirt, bumper sticker, or whatever. But that's something that's going to take a fair amount of work to bring about. So who knows when it'll happen, but we would like to do that. You need 200 to run the 115 raid. Yeah, I'm aware of that, Al J. Bookworm. So I think what we're trying to do is give people a leg up on Light of Erendil without basically disrespecting all the work that they've done to itemize and get their gear ready. The reality is most people running the 115 raid in Update 23 were probably running it before Update 23 and probably have the itemization they need. But for people who aren't there yet, or new players who eventually get into that territory, we're not saying you're never going to have to worry about Light of Erendil on your gear anymore. But we are going to give you, about halfway there. So that should hopefully help on most of the content that you'll need in Mordor. And then if you need to do that kind of a last bit of content in Mordor or the raid, you still might need to do a little itemization on your end. Or equip specific items that are tailored to that particular combat. Yeah, CP from Landreval. Last year's mount from the Farmer's Fair is being bartered for full price instead of half. Normally we take last year's mount and cut the price on it. My guess is that's an oversight. I haven't actually had time to follow through on that one yet, but it sounds like an oversight to me. Ray tracing is a method of generating CGI models in a CG environment implemented for lighting models in CGI in a game engine. It's a hardware approximation on image generation. Okay. Anyway, I have not heard of adding ray tracing to LOTRO. We don't even have a ray in-house. Not that I'm aware of. Is there any update on the return of store items to mail again? Or question mark? No, there is no update. At this time, we have no plans to bring that back. Will the German translation be improved? We are always looking to improve the German translation if we can. Question from Facebook. Adult Hobbit footy jammies. Okay, merch. Yep. Class balancing is an ongoing project. Yeah, we do have a little bit in Update 23, but because of the system and other needs in Update 23 here, we just kind of had to do a lighter amount of work on class work for Update 23. Hopefully most of that stuff's going to come back in full force for the point updates and things like that. So we're not done with it, but it is true that Update 23 has less class work than some of the other stuff we've done recently. And that's really just a function of you have X amount of people that need to do Y amount of work. Are there plans to enable mounted combat in lower level areas? No. Are virtues going up past 20? I have not heard of any plan to do that. Will the Mordor instances scale to 120? No, not at this time. Perhaps in the future, though. Is there any particular reason the light armors have evade on them, especially for obvious will classes, rather than another stat that is actually useful? I don't really have a good answer to that, other than perhaps we can take a look at that, or maybe there are people that could use that itemization. But otherwise, Roycon will just have to, I'll have to go to one of the systems devs and say, like, yo, Why does light armor have evade on it? For obviously will classes, and see what happens. I am aware that Ward and Gambit building attacks have slowed down. I don't know what the state of addressing or looking at that is. Are the instances going to get initially released with Update 23, or will they get released when Tier 3 is ready? They will be released with Update 23, and then a few weeks later we're going to introduce the Tier 3 version of them. How about Steam achievements for LOTRO? Nah, this maybe someday, but it's not really high on our priority list. I don't know what the LOTRO point price will be for the new update. As a matter of fact, I don't think that's been settled yet. Will Abyss of Mordath gear scale to 120? No. That is my belief is that it is some of that is scaling right now on Bull Roar, but it is not supposed to. Do we think flying mounts for moving into certain gaming areas could be a new experience? So probably not. The problem with flying in LOTRO is similar to the problem of flying as a spell in Dungeons and Dragons online, and that is the game environment in our world builder is really not meant for that level of loose verticality. So to some extent you'd get to see the sausage being made in a way that wouldn't be advantageous were you to just sort of get on your eagle and fly away. There are some, I would imagine, Jeff and Chris probably would have some questions were we to propose flying mounts in LOTRO. Presumably they'd be eagles, and yeah, our eagles, they're kind of exceptional in terms of letting you ride them, right? They're not something, you shouldn't be having people flying all over the place on eagles, but yeah, we'll see. Theoretically, that's something we could... It seems like if that ever happened, it would be more likely to be part of a specific instance or scenario or something that was built for that part of the story with, you know, the eagles, presumably.
Like the one that's already in game.
Yeah. But you're not actually flying them, are you? Like
Yes.
moving around? But moving around and stuff?
No. It's part of a cutscene.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're with Gandalf. That's the only reason you get to go.
So if we ever introduce Hotel California to LOTRO, we'll have to revisit that. And on that note, let us go in-game. I've managed to somehow kill 40 minutes of... I've somehow managed to kill 40 minutes of just talk. By the way, dudes and dudettes, you see this awesome stinger? How cool is that, huh? I put that together this past week. I was digging through the archives. We're actually kind of changing some desks and things like that right now. Over on the SSG side, there's things afoot where the old Turbine's kind of moving out a part of their office, and then part of that office is being converted into 2 offices so the place can lease it out. And as part of that, we're kind of consolidating into a more vertical layout than what we currently have. You've been to the office, Druid's Fire. You know, that whole kind of forgotten back area is going to be turned into our offices. And then the office is getting a little skinnier.
Are you getting a window seat now?
I am, as a matter of fact. Yeah. But long story short, we had to clear out a whole bunch of just stuff that way back when we first split from Turbine, we were just like, let's stuff it in a room and deal with it later. And so that later has unfortunately come to hit us as... You know, you really need to deal with that now. So I went through about 30 old marketing drives, hard drives, this past week and started to find some stuff. And as part of that, I actually found the ring spin animation with an alpha channel that was used. And then I took that into you know, something or other. I guess it was Premiere, and then kind of turned into a cool stinger here for LOTRO. All right, so what are we doing? We're going with, Urana to meet your rival.
You're on a.
We're going to get set bonuses or fixes to certain classes as some are unusable without current set bonuses. I would need more detail as to what makes them unusable, but perhaps. Is the T3 version going to be overall harder than the current T2 we have on live? Heck yeah. The intention is, and we're not settled on all the difficulty of Tier 1, Tier 2. I know, Els, you had said that you and your group, which, let's be honest, you guys are top-end questers in that, in terms of the difficulty and stuff. You found you were able to get through without any healers and stuff on Tier 2, but I did see some conflicting feedback that some other folks who had run it did not have quite as easy a time of it. But yes, Tier 3 is going to be a much more difficult version than Tier 2, which will be a more difficult version than Tier 1. And the rewards will scale appropriately. How many beta rounds left for Update 23 approximately? At least one, maybe two. But I think we're probably taking a pause until September here so that we can do some kind of heavy-duty lifting work on polishing Update 23 up and getting it ready. And just for those who don't know, Tier 3 is replacing T2C. In many ways will be like T2C. But it's something that we're systemizing to hopefully be able to do more of that kind of thing than the current pace. Will War Seeds morale be improved to make them more worthwhile for combat in Mordor and after? That would be terrific. I think the reality is there's a lot of conflicted opinions about mounted combat in LOTRO. I think if we were to do it, we'd probably first want to do a real holistic look at mounted combat before we would expand upon it. Please stop calling it LOTRO. It's LOTRO. You're not wrong. Lord of... I guess... LOTRO? LOTRO? That's how I get it from? Rather than Lord of... LOTRO. So I guess it depends on which O you're stressing. I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. I've always called it LOTRO, and if I'm wrong about that, then I think you're just going to have to live with it, because it's too attached in my brain at this point.
Brains.
Yeah. Any plans to add... Oh, no, you've got me worried about it. Let's see, LOTRO to other platforms? No. It's unlikely we'll see, say, a console version of the game. Ooh, Gussie just had a breakfast of eggs, sausage, English muffins, and hash browns. How very Hobbit of you. The other piece I would mention is that the Farmers Fair kicked off. Where am I going? Saya? I forgot I stopped paying attention to where I was, and now where am I heading?
All the way at the other side of the bay.
Okay. It's only LOTRO if you pronounce it Lord of the Rings Online. Yeah, see, well, I am from living in the Boston area, so it should be Lord of the Rings Online. You know? It's Lord. Where am I going?
Curry Larry, I do believe.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all probably have to unlock it with missile coin.
It's fine. So the Farmer's Fair is here. It actually, I am ashamed, and I feel bad. I was supposed to change the calendar. Apparently, it had been moved from August 30th to August 23rd, sometime in the last 6 months, and I either someone told me and I forgot or whatever, but I didn't change the event schedule. And so suddenly, was it Wednesday? People were like, why is the Farmer's Fair active a week early? It actually is on time. I'm the one who was wrong. And so I quick changed it on the event calendar. But long and short of it, the Farmer's Fair is here, and it is running through September 10th. Additionally, there is a VIP event boost going on this weekend that runs through Sunday. Shut off Monday at 3 a.m. Eastern. And we do have some new stuff. There's a new mount, new armor. There's a housing item of a bread oven, which is pretty rad. And a baby goat, a kid that you can get as well. And that's pretty cool. Seek the body of the sea monster. Ooh, exciting.
This is the good stuff.
Like at Lariana, that is funny stuff. I love this wintry area. It looks really neat. I'm loving that.
And cause of one of my favorite bugs that if you ever fix, I'll cry, and I think many people in the community probably will as well. The infamous Foro-chill fog bug. Yeah, sometimes if you come here, you can't see the sky, and the skybox is just like the entire landscape is foggy. And if you go to some other area, you bring the fog with you, so you get some really rad screenshots in other places like Bree or wherever.
Probably need to go around here. Okay.
Yep.
That's usually a function of the sort of background not loading correctly when you leave the instance.
Yep, but it's cool.
It's a Guardian Ravager. By the way, let me say it again, because I saw it again on the forums this week. Yes, I know I'm headbutting enemies, and I don't care. Deal with it. Dwinstrel, the Dwarven Minstrel, will headbutt his enemies up to level 120 if I ever get that far. And that's your problem if you don't like it.
In what, 5-10 years?
Yep.
I'm taking bets whether Corey will actually get to the end of the story or you'll actually get to higher levels before the millennium is up.
What do I think of implementing choices to have greater consequences in future quests? Oh, okay, so more of like kind of a choose your own adventure style thing. It's a challenge when you start getting into kind of branching story dialogue and things like that. But I'm sure if there's some areas where we'd love to do more of that kind of thing. Will combat be changed in the future? I think it's unlikely we would see an entire top-to-bottom rewrite of our combat system. But, you know, if there's something in particular that makes sense, then perhaps. Let me check my sound files. I'm not hearing the game. I don't know if it's that I just don't have it set right or... Maybe you guys can hear and I just have it turned down too low. Yeah, I'm not hearing myself. I don't know what's going on. Some kind of audio thingy. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it is just on my end. It was on the speaker properties. It was set at like 13%. Thou art not of the Losuth, but are a dwarf from my lands of old. Why come ye to this terrible place? Cool. Any chance we'll see an XP disabler that doesn't consume a pocket slot? I'm sorry to say, I really don't see us doing the work on that in the foreseeable future. Never say never, but I just don't really see us doing the work on that.
Yeah, at least with the Shield of the Hammerhand that I mentioned, the XP booster, it does actually have stats on it, but the Tortoise does not, from my understanding.
We going the wrong way? Oh no, we're going to be taking a
table, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, mammoths. We are going to Ziggelgund. I only see...
Yeah, same here.
Alright. Well,
Table master map it.
Well, we can just run there.
Okay.
It's not that far. Yeah, I think that probably, you're right, Gondorazilla, which is an awesome name, by the way. I think that probably is the ultimate solution, which is if we were to, rather than add stats to the Stone of the Tortoise, just make it like a Smell the Roses skill that you turn off and on. I think that would be probably a more productive use of dev time. But I don't see us doing that anytime soon either, I'm sorry.
It's about to get super pretty up in here with dusk and going to nightfall.
Yep. Buddha, what about set bonuses? The DPS Warden is literally unplayable without a +3 dot bonus. I don't think that's actually true, but I appreciate that you feel strongly about it. I don't know that we're going to resolve your concern ahead of update 23. And I'm sorry. I guess I would say if a +3 dot bonus is the difference between a good class and a completely unplayable class, then we have bigger problems than a set bonus. This is a very pretty area.
It is. I understand that your predecessor times 2, Mr. Sapiens, this was his favorite area in game all the time.
I can see that.
Yeah, the Northern Lights are pretty gosh darn.
Oh, shoot, I think I went the wrong... I don't know if I can get there from here. Well,
you have to go around.
Okay. I brought friends.
Yeah, watch out for the, I don't think there's an RT up here, but there's, an elite rare or something or other that sometimes spawns, so have fun with that.
Sweet. Yes, I'm one of those people who opens the map constantly. Sorry if it annoys thee.
There's actually the possibility that Corey is going to start on time. Grifflet just logged in. What?
Yeah, I'm actually going to wrap up the show here in just a couple of minutes. But before I do that, I wanted to get to our location, as it were.
You still want to come around the south side. You're going the wrong way.
Ooh, how nice. Heck yeah. Nice. Well, I think this is probably about as good a place as any to call it a shear, because we've got a whole bunch of people to talk with and to. Lots of good stuff here. All right, so thank you very much for watching Court of the Rings on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Really do appreciate you joining us here. If you would give us a like on Facebook, you'll be notified when we go live with shows. Also, if you subscribe to us on YouTube, you'll get these videos in your subscription feed. If you follow us on Twitch, you can opt in to notifications, and you can also find our full schedule over on twitch.tv/LOTRO Druid's Fire. What you got going on today?
Well, since we got VIP boosts going on, I'm probably on my show gonna pick a lobby on, I don't know, either here or Landy or, maybe over in Crick Hollow and just get some leveling done while it's here. Maybe do some Farmer's Fair, since I actually do want to do Farmer's Fair. So.
I do too. I just didn't want to do it on the stream here because I'm kind of trying to make some progress, as it were. And then also Corey Olson is going to be on in just a minute here over on LOTRO Stream, so stay tuned for that. And we do have shows all weekend long as well. So thank you so much to the LOTRO Stream team for making this channel a success. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for your questions and for playing Lord of the Rings online. I will see you next week. Have fun all.